Okay. I hope this can be the video. I have to record a few times and warm up. I don't know why, and it's annoying and it feels inconvenient. I don't know if that's normal for people who record videos, but it takes me a minute to get in the flow of things. So, okay. So, I was first introduced to Stoicism by my father in law. My father in law is a very educated man, and he is extremely intelligent, and I admire and respect him so much. And he has read everything, I think, that there is to read. So one day he showed me the Daily Stoic and just was explaining the philosophy behind it and the history behind Stoicism. And it's something that he's recently gotten into and started reading on a daily basis. So he was explaining the different virtues to us and the basic premise of the philosophy. And I took the book and took it home and read it every day. I think that the Daily Stoic is probably the best introductory to Stoicism. I'm sure there are other books out there, but that's just one that I'm the most familiar with. And the Daily Stoic includes quotes from the different philosophers and their writings, and then interprets them and creates a lesson out of them in modern day terms, basically. And there's a page that you can read for every day of the year. So I think that's a really good introduction to it. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the readings, and clearly I found something useful out of it. And then last year, in 2024, that year was quite the year. Okay. I need to ground myself and take a moment and make sure that I'm speaking from my heart, and yeah, just not put too much pressure on this because this is my experience. So I'm the expert in talking about it. So I don't know why I have to think about my words so much before I share an idea, but, or not even idea, it's just my experience. So, anyways, in 2024, there was a lot of tragedy and a lot of loss. And the tragedies were affected by people that I very much love and people that I am close to. So I feel like that year, last year, gave me no other option other than to confront death. And death is a topic that I have struggled with for quite a while now. And grief and the idea of loss. Because, I mean, my family and friends are my life. So, of course, I'm going to fear losing them. And I am grateful to have not experienced a lot of loss in my life directly. I did lose my grandfather a couple of years ago, and I love him and miss him so much. And I learned a lot about the grief process through that, of course, by experiencing it firsthand. But it's just something that makes me feel very existential. And again, it's something I've been working through in therapy. And it's something that I've been avoiding too, not wanting to watch much about it or read much about it. So it wasn't until my friend last year, who is also a very well educated man, and he is very, very intelligent, and he is a wonderful writer, and he has read also, I think, everything. He asked me if I have read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and I had not. And there's actually a really good lecture on it. He introduced me to the lecture first, and that's something I can upload in the description. I haven't uploaded any links in the description yet, but I can do that this time. And yeah, it's a great lecture on YouTube from a professor, I don't remember his name, explaining the philosophy of Stoicism. So yeah, I watched the lecture, and he basically suggested that I read Meditations at this point in my life where I was basically going through a crisis, an existential crisis, which I do every so often. But they're just a lot to cope with. And yeah, while I was in a state of questioning things and not really understanding like why things happen the way that they do, and just kind of feeling lost. And it just being a very dark period of life. So I was like, I can do that. I can read it. At first, I didn't think I would be smart enough to read it. And he was like, of course you are, dude. Just read it like word for word. You are smart. You are capable of doing this. And yeah, he was right. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are definitely some like sentences and phrases and things in the book that are hard to interpret. Philosophy is not an easy thing to read. It definitely challenges me, but in the best way possible. Oh, Boomer has joined. Boomer has joined for the conversation. He just finished eating his dinner. So yeah, it challenges a part of my brain that I feel like I don't use on a daily basis, except for when I'm reading my morning readings. And yeah, so other than that, I was able to resonate with a lot in the book. And I was particularly able to resonate when he was writing about topics discussing death and the concept of death and how to cope with death, and that death is just a natural part of the cycle, and we are one with nature, and there's a beginning and there's an end, and that's how all things work. And I know this, right? People say that often when people die. They'll say things like, it's life. We're all gonna die someday. And I know that logically, but it didn't resonate with me until I read Meditations. And I think there is something to be said about how beautifully everything is written. And I've gotten to the point where instead of avoiding death, I actually kind of look forward to reading a really beautiful quote about it, especially a Stoic quote, because it brings me comfort. And it's just this idea that, again, life is a cycle, and there's different parts of the cycle, and there's different seasons of life. And I live in Kentucky, for example, so I get to experience all 4 seasons. And I've always said for the longest time that I want to live somewhere where it's warm and sunny all the time, and I hate the cold and I hate the snow. But I have grown to love and appreciate each season, because there is beauty in the cycle of it. when the trees die and the leaves die, and then they're beautifully red and orange and yellow, and that's something that we can appreciate when they're in their transition process, and then they die and they fall off, and in the winter there's just branches, but I have found beauty in dead trees, or trees with dead branches, and how like intricate trees can look, and how there's something to celebrate in every season of life. And it's something that we can just romanticize and allow ourselves to appreciate rather than working against it, right? We're flowing with it. And that is something that I have learned to do, and it has changed my life truly. And I can just apply that same concept to death, because loss is nothing but change, and change is the only constant. So we're not really left with any other options. But yeah, I have to thank Stoicism for that. I feel like the philosophy carried me through a dark time in life and has really shifted my perspective completely on life. And I live every day even more intentionally than I have before, and I'm a pretty intentional and mindful person. I consider myself to be an expert in mindfulness. I know somebody asked that in the comment section of my other video. What do I consider myself to be an expert in? And I do consider myself to be an expert in mindfulness, and it's something I've been practicing and studying for the past 8 years since I've been in college, and I have done research. I have a published paper on mindfulness, which is super cool. And that doesn't even matter. Just the fact that I practice it every day is how I have become such a present and intentional person. But the philosophy of Stoicism has ingrained that so much more into me, and there's just a complete new side that I've implemented into my life, a complete new perspective. It's like I'm just even more secure in it now, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, meditations, and my friend gifted me this copy, and I've shown the copy before on here, but not up close. I mean, this is the most beautiful copy of a book I've ever seen. Honestly, it's like worn in, and it's just immaculate. And he just gave it to me. He was like, literature is meant to be passed down. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but I will not be passing this down. I will be keeping this copy for myself. I know that's selfish of me, but nobody's getting that copy. So, yeah, I believe in an afterlife of some sort. Little background on me. Since I'm trying to share a bit more about myself. I grew up Catholic. I was baptized Catholic. I went to Catholic school, and I had a wonderful experience in Catholic school, and with all the people I went to school with, all the families that were a part of my lives back then, the teachers, that I had a really beautiful experience with that, and I'm very, very grateful for that, because I know a lot of people, and I have several clients who experience really, really bad, or really, I don't know if bad's the right word, but significant religious trauma from their experiences in like a private religious school. So I did not experience that. I'm very grateful. However, I'm sorry, I need to take a sip of my water here. I feel like my throat's closing up on me. So long story short, as I've grown older, I just resonate more with the word spiritual for myself rather than religious. I feel that I'm a very spiritual person, and I do believe in God. I just think that my visuals of, the afterlife and heaven and God have shifted for me into a more spiritual aspect. Um, but yeah, I do believe that we are in peace in the afterlife, and our soul or our consciousness continues on. And although it can still be really daunting, I have found great comfort in that. Aside from philosophy, just in a spiritual sense, because Stoicism is just a philosophy. It's not a religion or a spiritual practice, but there's just so much information in there that also resonated with me in a spiritual sense and is aligned with my spiritual beliefs. So it just amplified it for me. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And there's so much more to Stoicism too that we could go on about, maybe in another video. But that has been my relationship with death so far. And that is the growth that I have gone through in the past year. Yeah, so let's do a quick little switch up. I did read the comments from my last video, which I just posted. So not a lot of time in between, but I was just feeling ready to sit down and talk, so I went for it. But yeah, so really, there are really good prompts and really good questions on here, and I will get to all of those, I think, just in bits and pieces throughout my videos, just touch on some of these questions. But let's maybe answer one or two before I leave. Well, someone did ask what made me get into Stoicism, so that's the one that resonated with me the most right now, because I've been wanting to make this video. I just have held myself back from doing it, so I've done it now. And oh yeah, someone asked me, I think today, what is my favorite potato? And that's just, or my favorite form of potato, and that's just so funny to me. It's just so random, and I love it, and I love potatoes. So great question. I prefer potatoes that are softer, so a mashed potato, or with French fries. I'm not really into crispy potatoes. I'm more into, and people think this is so weird about me, so it's okay if you're gonna judge me for it, because my friends and family already do, but I prefer French fries that are slightly undercooked. I don't like crispy fries. I like them more, I guess, mashed, so mashed potatoes. Or a baked potato. I think baked potato is honestly my number one. Just a classic, traditional, loaded baked potato. That's my number one answer. So, favorite potato. And then someone else asked me, Homestead Made Easy. I appreciate your comments always and your support always. If I could go back to being 18, would I follow the same school and career path, or would I choose something different? And then assume money isn't an issue and I could get into any college. So I would not change my career path. I am fully fulfilled and secure in being a therapist. I've known that I've wanted to do this for most of my life, and that is something I can talk again more about. I only have so much brain power to touch on so many different subjects right now, but I feel like it is my calling. I have always felt that way. So I would not go back and change my career path, but if I had to choose a different career path other than therapy, what would I be doing? I would be a professor. I really think I would be a college professor. I actually did get an adjunct professor position at the college that I graduated from, and I start in the fall, and I'm teaching one course, Intro to Clinical Interviewing and Therapy, in the psychology department. So I am so pumped about that. I have been wanting to teach, so I do think I would really enjoy being in academia and being like a full-time professor if I went back, maybe get my PhD and do that kind of work. But if I was to major in something completely different, I honestly would probably choose philosophy. I didn't even have the luxury of, well, not the, I had the opportunity to take a philosophy class in college, I'm sure. I just didn't choose to do so. And I don't think I would have appreciated it back then, anyways, but I'd probably go back and study philosophy if I were just to go back, like, for funsies. And then if money weren't an issue, and if I were just to go back to college for fun, where would I go? Well, I love the school that I graduated from, and I am a proud alumna, yeah. Um, but aside from that, if I were to go anywhere, I would definitely go to an Ivy League school, like Harvard or Yale. And I am not, I think well of myself, but I don't think I am qualified to get into an Ivy League school. Again, just hypothetically for fun, I would definitely go to an Ivy League school. That would be so cool and so elite. And I love college campuses, and I love college. And I've always thought it'd be so awesome to just like be walking through Harvard's campus on a fall day, sitting underneath a tree and studying and taking these like really serious classes with people who are so academic and intelligent and inspiring and curious. So that's what I would do. And I am wearing a Gilmore Girls sweatshirt, actually. So I heavily resonate with Rory and who she is as a person. So yeah, I'd probably choose Harvard though. But yeah. So I think that's it. I think that's all. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up more later. So farewell.